Good afternoon, my big stars, and happy Tuesday. It's me, Lethabo Maluke, the host of Young, Popular, and Opinionated, your favorite podcast. In the words of the artist Dean Hutton, this is a podcast that creates a soft space for what? Hard conversation. I also wanted to announce that I have partnered with Amazi She Tribe and Women for Change on their Safety is Power campaign. This movement is deeply important to me because gender-based violence is one of the biggest challenges facing women in South Africa, right? Survivors deserve more than awareness. They deserve protection, healing, and real resources. With this campaign, every Amazi product purchased contributes to counseling, legal aid, and emergency support for women in need. It's proof that even small actions can create big change. Together, let's speak up, stand up, and remind the world that safety is power. So please support. Literally, your 10 Rand goes such a long way. You know, if you can't make it to the marches, if you can't post, let that 10 Rand do a bit of the work for you. Thank you. And what's harder than today's conversations? I know, you saw me crashing out. You saw your favorite creators crashing out. You even saw the media crashing out. And we know what it is, the Alabuga Start Program, and specifically the influencers who allegedly recruited to promote and recruit potential trainees for the program. But before we get into that, let me give you a bit of an update. I know you probably missed me last week, but guys, I've been so sick. This change of season has not been easy on me. I feel like when August started, when we recorded the first episode, I was literally blocked and I sounded so nasally and congested, and literally I was not happy with that. And so last week when it was time to record, I was just like, you know what? Let me take some time out for myself. Because I made my 2 friends sick, I made my mom sick, I made my grand sick, and then I'm gonna come to the studio and make the entire team sick. I was like, it's fine to take a break. You are not going anywhere, I am not going anywhere. Young, Popular, and Opinionated is here to stay, and I will see you the following week. But I'm back. I'm sure you can even see the change of dress. You know, I'm not in my usual suit and tie because it is so hot. You see, also, just for a little context, this whole set, guys, is from Mr. Price. I literally bought it a couple of months ago for my best friend's sister's wedding because last minute my attire didn't fit. And I literally picked this out without looking and only realized a month after I'd seen the pictures that this fit is hard. But we're not here to talk about my fashion choices. Let's get into it. You know, this topic is very interesting to me because I think South Africa rarely ever analyzes the root cause of the problem. A lot of people love to throw that word or term around, oh, we're analyzing the root cause, but they never really do. Because when you interrogate the misogyny of pygmies, you're being too deep. When you interrogate the misogyny of certain podcasts, you're being too deep. When you interrogate the fact that we've become so morally bankrupt that we've normalized a culture of degeneracy, honestly, you're being too deep. But people don't realize that the reason why it was so easy for people, I guess, to be hoodwinked themselves into potentially promoting a human trafficking regime or scheme, whatever you want to call it, is because we've normalized the chase for money at literally no cost. We will stop at nothing to get money. I always say South Africans battle so much with being content with their own circumstances. And this is not me saying don't strive for more, but we are so always ready to compare ourselves to the next person, especially if it's on social media. Like, people always wonder if people who are following influencers are the ones who are trying to chase these unobtainable lifestyles. But I'd argue that influencers are still falling victim to that exact same trap. They're comparing themselves to other influencers. They're comparing themselves to people from other countries, you know? And let's be honest, this culture of crime being a component to lifestyle content creation begins in the clubs. I mean, let's talk about it. Why are we not acknowledging the fact that girls have long been getting sold to DJs, to promoters, to artists, to club owners in exchange for a fee by people whose entire brand revolves around club appearances. So if you are a young person who, this is not limited to this, by the way, but this pertains to you the most. If you're a young person who's moved cities or provinces to go to university, and you're not really familiar with the city, with the province, with the nightlife, you're naturally going to want to gravitate towards seeing it, experiencing it. You're a young person, you're entitled to the fun. Because university, I believe, is not just about getting the certificate, getting the good grades, getting golden key. You also learn how to be an adult. You also learn how to be independent. You learn how to be a friend in the adult world. You learn how to date in the adult world. But with that comes consequences. So a lot of people will probably offer you entry into like a bogus guest list, right? So it'll usually be on a module group, it'll be on your res or accommodation group, and the guest list will usually come from a guy who claims to be connected to the influencer or a like public figure that will be at the club this coming Thursday. But there's always a criteria. There's a certain number of guys that are allowed. And even with those guys, sometimes you're not allowed to wear Converse. Sometimes you're not allowed to wear like flip-flops. Sometimes you strictly have to wear branded shoes. I remember this one time I went to a club in Santon because my friend was a DJ and she just wanted me to see what it's like behind the booth and to be in the section with her. And I was wearing that Converse Dior collab that was popular like 5 years ago, and they literally fought me at the door for 3 hours trying to prove that Converse and Dior had a collaboration. But the standards and criteria for women to enter are even worse because you usually have to be wearing a dress. You can't be wearing sneakers. You have to have makeup sometimes. In some instances, you might not even be allowed to have certain braided hairstyles or natural hair. I know that this might sound far-fetched, but literally anyone who goes to these high-end clubs where the entry fee is like $1,000,000 knows exactly what I'm talking about, right? And so for the longest time, I've always known that classism plays a huge role into club culture because yes, if everyone is stripped down in designer, there's pressure for everyone to pretend to be a baller. Everyone is tricked into buying bottles, even though allegedly some of it is fake alcohol. I would know from the story time I did about my dad about how he was also involved in the sale of fake alcohol at some point in his life. And it's a trick, but also the way the criteria works for girls, in my opinion and from my observation, is so that these people can get away with sexualizing girls. A lot of the time when girls report sexual assault in clubs, also before I continue, trigger warning, there will be mentions of sexual violence and rape all throughout this episode. You guys rightfully added that in the comments. I saw on YouTube that anytime before I start a conversation about that, I should just say so that sensitive viewers can have the option to either opt out or listen at their own pace or listen comfortably or have someone who I guess isn't as triggered easily to interpret the information on their behalf. And I appreciate that. So a lot of the time when girls report sexual assault, inappropriate touching, or just feeling discomfort in clubs, victim blaming is what happens. The fingers are always pointed at them because what is a young girl who's supposed to be in university chasing her future doing drinking? What is she doing dancing until the early hours of Sunday morning, Saturday morning, Friday morning? And in university, you can literally go to the club from Monday to Monday if you really want to, right? They're like, what are you doing? What are you doing putting yourself in that situation, right? The first thing. Then the second thing they come for is their appearance. What were you doing in a club in a short skirt, in a short dress, in heels, with a full face of makeup if you did not want to attract men? But then I say to myself, that criteria wasn't set by them. The owners asked them to come in that way. The owners are sexualizing them by pretending that they sexualize themselves in the first place. I know this might sound a bit confusing, but it's my observation. You know how we work here, out of the box. And it's even like, do you remember that all-white party that happened a couple of years ago, allegedly by the North Guard, where women allegedly had to come to the party shaved, and this included the shaving of their private parts. And let's say, for example, if a woman gets assaulted in that setting, what are they going to say to you? Well, if you didn't come ready to exchange sexual favors, then why did you shave? But now here's my question. Who set that criteria up? Who set that system up? You only granted an entry into this place if they met that standard. You set that up. You set them up to be assaulted, to be sexualized. And here's my other hot take. I don't think there's anything inherently sexual about a semi-naked body, because sexualization, someone needs to consent to being sexualized. People can invite sexualization with their intimate partners. There are plenty of people who I know are in the business of like OnlyFans or Just for Fans or exclusive content on social media platforms, but they set that boundary. The average person that you find attractive, just because you find them attractive, does not give you permission to sexualize them. And if you're specifically asking them to sexualize themselves on your behalf, they're still not consenting to it. They're simply following your social rules. Because you're creating a hierarchy, right, between them and the other girls. But hey, let me not get too lost in that. We'll come back to it. And so when girls are entering in these situations, now back to the club, back to the guest list, a lot of the time they don't really know what they exchanged, right? They get a drink, they guaranteed free drinks the whole night. And most of the time, the influencer, the promoter, the person who connects them to this thing will say to them, well, girl, all you have to do is entertain that guy, keep him company. But now here's my question. A 19-year-old girl, what does she have in common with a 47-year-old coked out man in the club? How is she going to keep him company? What are they going to talk about? How hard the anthropology essay was? What are they going to talk about? How fun Scorpion King's live was? What are they going to talk about? We all know that keeping them company is exchanging sexual favors. They're not going to sit down together and watch Lerato Nxumalo's vlogs. They're not going to sit down together and talk about, I don't know, Inimba. Like, keeping each other company literally translates to exchanging sexual favors. And I think what breaks my heart specifically about these sexual favors is that a lot of these club promoters and these influencers who specifically attach club promotion and content as their niche is that they think they're going to groom and train girls to play and exploit men. I hate to break it to you. A man who's in the club on a Thursday night, on a Tuesday night, in his 50s, cannot be exploited by a 19-year-old girl. So, we've established that they have nothing in common. We've established that a 19-year-old girl cannot outsmart a 50-year-old man. But why are certain creators asserting that you can do that? Like, I've always believed that sex work is work, but there are, I guess, context matters. Are you old enough? Are you consenting to it? Are you comfortable? What are the circumstances? And I know some people can be like, oh, choice feminism. This is not about choice feminism. It's simply about people's choices, right? Like, choice feminism, choices. But like, at the end of the day, no matter how hard I fight it, if a fully developed adult is consenting to doing this, then I cannot impose. But I feel like a lot of young girls from those very vulnerable and tender ages, the same ages as the Alabuga Start Program requires you to be, are becoming sex workers not because they want to, but because they're slowly tricked into it. So The influencers that promote this Mavuso lifestyle often say, girls, I'm going to show you how to make sure that you get your money's worth from this man. Like, I'm going to show you how to make sure that he buys you this bag, how to make sure that he pays for a vacation, how to make sure that he pays for... But you are paying with your life. You are paying with your life. They're like, no, he's a fool. All you have to do is sleep with him, and then you get a vacation, you get a bag, you get a car, you get an apartment, and all you have to do is... Guys, that is not all you have to do. They act like these people are having your standard sexual relations. They are not. It is often rooted in humiliation, in harm, in these very weird fetishes and kink. But we also know that a lot of these ballers, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the stats, but there's an increasing number of women over the age of 50 currently being infected by HIV and STDs because of infidelity of their husbands. These men of God that they hold hands with in church every Sunday are sleeping with my age mates, making my age mates sick, making their wives sick. They have a tendency of not inquiring about their sexual health. It's so funny. It's so funny how they use purity culture to say, I will not get tested. It implies a crack in my marriage. Yeah, you cracked the marriage by cracking a 19-year-old. What the hell? Like, hello. But anyway, that's just how it works, guys. You are not going to exploit a 50-year-old man. Also, these men also get these girls hooked onto drugs. A lot of them become drug mules for these men. A lot of the girls start taking drugs to cope with the trauma. A lot of them have to literally be so intoxicated to be able to sleep with these people. Because as I said, it's not your standard, like in a Telemundo show, telenovela, where it's so passionate and, the people get on the bed and then it cuts to them being like under the sheets. And then that's not what's happening. It's humiliating. And so when they promote this lifestyle, why do they never tell the girls that very vital piece of information? That you're exchanging so much, you're losing your health, you're losing your soul, you're losing your youth, you're losing your mental health. And unfortunately, these men do not give you money that translates into anything real in the world because they have to create a dependency. Right? You're exchanging sexual favors, right? They pay you for the sex, whatever. But they need to keep that dependency going. They are not going to buy an apartment for you. They're not going to buy a car for you. You are going to lose all of it. And what is funny is that apart from these ballers, they organize these girls for DJs, for artists, for promoters, for the owners. And that is where South African human trafficking starts. It's always so funny to me that people can name at least 5 creators who've literally drugged them in a club to steal a phone, to steal something from them, or to try and steal them. And yet, when certain creators are now being accused of allegedly selling you guys to the Russians, you get surprised. They've been selling you guys for years. They sell you guys for iPhones. They sell you guys to steal your iPhone. Why are you surprised? Now let's get into the trafficking of it all. I honestly took a lot of time doing the research. I think the week off was really good to give me time to read up on all of this and get some proper and very needed context for the Alabuga Start Program, right? And my findings were truly so shocking. Please bear in mind that this is all alleged. Even from the reputable sources, they are still conducting investigations. Even South African officials are conducting investigations. So all of this is alleged, right? So the first thing is to lay out, I guess, the groundwork for what the Alabuga Start Program actually is and what it offers. So, according to the Institute for Science and International Security, the Alabuga Start Program is tailored to attracting foreign female participants aged 16 to 22 So it's even younger than the assumed 18 to 22 that we've been hearing about. To participate in a 2-year work program at JSC Alabuga, the main countries that have been targeted include the Commonwealth of Independent States, CIS, and a few other Asian countries and many, many African countries. The program was started in 2022 after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine. The people who keep saying, follow the trail of the war, you are on the money. But before the JSC Alabuga decided to produce drones, as opposed to Alabuga Polytechnic, the Alabuga Start program has lower admission requirements and does not require an entrance exam. You see, this was my other red flag, because to get an overseas opportunity that is legitimate, you have to go through so many eligibility criteria, matching steps, and this just was way too easy for my liking. Participants are only required to know 100 Russian or English words. So my question is, if they are grooming you and training you to learn all of these skills and you only need to know 100 English or Russian words, what is the medium of instruction? Just saying. The participants are employed in simple manual labor operations with few options for career advancement or job prospects outside the Alabuga Special Economic Zone. So allegedly, you get promoted every 6 months. In this, guys, I know this is serious, but remember when they remember when they said in the program you get promoted every 6 months? So my question is, did you see that girl who's currently working as a housekeeper? When she gets promoted every 6 months, is she going to end up being Musteds? Like, is she going to end up being the homeowner? Like, getting promoted 6 months as a housekeeper to what exactly? You become the woman of the house? When you get promoted, do you get the Russian woman's husband? Like, what do you get as a promotion? With JSC Alabuga's decision in late 2022 to produce Shahed 136 drones for the Russian military, the importance of the START program increased as JSC Alabuga faced an acute labor shortage in its Shahed drone program. But many of the steps to make the Shahed 136 airframe involve simple operations that inexperienced personnel can learn quickly on the job. Some of the program's advertisements are specifically directed towards recruiting participants from the Commonwealth of Independent States, specifically Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. All of the stands, girl. Actually, do you guys know that episode of Shameless? I know this is like very like microaggression-y, where Ian and Lip were arguing about Ian wanting to join the military or something. And he's like, why the hell do you want to end up in a stan? And he was like, what's a stan? And he proceeds to list all of them. Pakistan. Because like, this is literally the list. This is literally the list. In one post by Alabuga Polytechnic, the Alabuga Start program claims that in 2022, 24 female CIS nationals were recruited. Other advertisements are directed towards primarily African countries. An early post on the Alabuga Start website lists 24 participants from Tanzania, Uganda, Ethiopia, Nigeria, and Pakistan were recorded to the program. Now let's hear what the Wall Street Journal has to say about this. The Wall Street Journal reported since its inception that over 1,000 women from all over Africa went to Alabuga under Alabuga Start, and another 1,000 are likely to go this year based on Ugandan officials aiding or knowledgeable about the recruitment effort. At least 27 countries have sent participants through Alabuga to start to work at Alabuga, and most of them are in Africa. But also 7 are what? In the Commonwealth of Independent States. So I'm going to read you the full list of countries that have been sent to work at Alabuga: Algeria, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Benin, Burkina Faso, Central African Republic, Colombia, Ethiopia, Kazakhstan, Kenya, Kazakhstan, Lesotho, Malawi, Mali, Mozambique, Nigeria, Pakistan, Rwanda, South Africa, South Sudan, Tanzania, Uganda, Uzbekistan, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. Alabuga Start uses several tactics to attract foreign females to join its program, right? It offers a generous pay of 60,000 per month, which is 673 US dollars, and a certificate of professional training such as the quality management of products, processes, and services from the Technical College, Kazan National Research Technical University. The participants are not formal students at the technical college and are only listed on the school's roster to obtain a professional training certificate. Alabuga Start notes that the salary it offers is at least double the average monthly salary in countries such as Zimbabwe, Uganda, Democratic Republic of Congo. So the information I've just shared with you is what is, I guess, communicated by several news publications. And I'm assuming that this is also how the information was relayed to the influencers, right? Because we're trying to understand what was so appealing to them, but what was so appealing to its potential victims. Guys, did you hear what I just said? They specifically target African countries. They specifically target very war-torn countries in the Middle East, in Asia, right? But they emphasize the fact that you are going to make more money than you will ever make in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, in Uganda. And you can't tell me that it's simply a coincidence that they specifically chose to use that language when referring to African countries, right? When they talk about these other countries, they don't say, you're going to make more money than you did in Thailand. But with the African countries, they are taking advantage of our high unemployment stats, our desperation, and honestly, our corruption. Because, guys, if I'm being honest, a lot of people were saying in these conversations, oh, but you as a South African, what the hell would be so enticing about wanting to go to Russia? You don't even have... Guys, a lot of the South Africans, and I'm going to get into this in a moment, people keep asking, why hasn't any South African reported anyone missing? Hey, we're all just going around in circles trying to find someone who's missing and fighting these influencers, but no one is technically missing. Guys, you need to remember that they're not targeting South Africa, they're targeting Africa. These influencers' reach does not begin and end in our country, in our borders. I mean, even YPO has listeners and supporters from Ghana. We have listeners and supporters from Europe. So what makes you think that from 2.8 million, some of those people aren't from across Africa? You guys need to stop being very short-sighted. And also the next thing, before I continue to read more stats and more of the research that I did, guys, why do you guys need to see evidence of someone being harmed for something to be considered harmful? Like, why do we need to fight rape culture when someone has been raped? Why do we need to fight human trafficking only when someone is trafficked? Also, can a traffic victim take a selfie and send it to us and say, oh my gosh, guys, hashtag in danger? They are being trafficked. They are not allowed to communicate with anyone. Where are they communicating with us from? Guys, let's apply our minds sometimes. Please. Let me read more stats. So, now get into the investigations of this program. Now, let's talk about it. The Alabuga Start Program has been widely promoted across African countries under the promise of educational and vocational opportunities, but disproportionately involves women, young African women, being employed in military drone production under exploitative conditions. So everything I said to you about what the program promises, we're allegedly throwing it out the window. South African influencers have played a promotional role in this. Despite no record of South Africa being an official source of country of participants, but from the previous research, what did we find? That we're included, right? This has raised alarm and led to an official investigation by South African authorities into the program's recruitment tactics and their intentions. The scale and secrecy of the operations, along with labor abuses, have prompted scrutiny from international media, human rights organizations, and digital platforms, some of which have since taken action to remove related content. Sia's been banned, I think. Sima's been banned. Zile's been banned. Monaka's asking you to not ban her, guys. Please don't. Yeah, so we know that, right? And I've listed the countries for you. I've listed the goals, right? And I've listed how they want to integrate this vocational training, this monthly income, this free accommodation into the Russian industries. But guys, get this. This program has also been promoted via Tinder. Alabuga has also been promoted via Tinder. It's interesting that last night I came from the VIP opening of the Johannesburg F&B Art Joburg's art fair. And on the way back, the Uber driver and I were having this conversation about how if you really pay careful attention to these dating apps, your Tinders, your Hinges, your Bumbles, certain people are also using them to traffic, including Grindr. I mean, we literally know of the Grindr syndicate that's very popular in South Africa. That's also why I'm not a user of Grindr, because literally they talk to gay men under the pretense of, my gosh, like, I'm in love with you, let's meet up for a hookup. And then when you get there, you're in this dingy building, there are 10 men who assault you, rob you. And some of them, guys, I need you to know, some of them are not doing it because they simply want to rob you. Some homophobic attacks literally have humiliation and harm at the center. But if someone has to promote a program via their Tinder profile or via an ad on Tinder, would you sign up to an educational program that you saw in a dating app? Would you do that? Have you ever seen UJ advertising inside a dating app? Has Vit ever put a poster inside a club? Come on, guys. And also, to the people that are saying South African activists and thought leaders are making this issue deep, you do know that human rights activists in Malawi, in Zambia, have also criticized this Alabuga Start program. You do know that activists, creators, outspoken people from all of the countries that were invited as participants are also speaking out against this program. As I said, just because in this country, in our borders, it has not affected us to the point of having hundreds and hundreds of people being reported as missing does not mean it's not happening elsewhere. So look into the information. A lot of you guys are speculating in comments, and the same way we're accusing these influencers of not doing their research, we're clearly not doing it either, right? So now let's read what certain news publications have had to say about this. So the Huffington Post literally alleges that women are in fact being lured under false pretenses involving travel and money, only to find themselves manufacturing war drones in Tajikistan, right? And that's the Huffington Post. What is Bloomberg saying? Bloomberg is saying Russia's push to recruit South African women triggers a probe. Business and Human Rights Resource Center, same thing. They're highlighting the labor abuses. The Associated Press, BBC World, from BBL to BBC. So guys, clearly, we are not the only people who are concerned. If reputable news sources are telling us to be wary, they're telling us to do our research, and you know how I feel. There truly is no smoke without fire. But guys, this has done nothing but, I guess, really get me interested in South Africa's own human trafficking statistics, because I think I've always known South Africa to have the potential to traffic people. People go missing every single day. Women for Change posts a missing person, a person who was discovered every single day, right? But upon reading the stats over the last couple of weeks, I didn't realize that I think probably in a few years from now, if nothing concrete or definitive is done, which, let's be honest, we all know how our government works, probably nothing will be done, we are going to be a major human trafficking hub. Guys, the Human Sciences Research Council estimated that approximately 250,000 people may have fallen victim to human trafficking within South Africa by mid 2023. So this is from 2 years ago. The updated stats are probably even worse. Other sources estimate that 50,000 to 100,000 trafficking cases have been identified per year over the last couple of years, with 55% of these victims being women, 45% being men, but listen to this, 75% of those victims range from ages 12 to 25. 12 to 25. I think I said this in a TikTok last year where I said victims of sexual violence, perpetrators, people that are going to go missing, all of these things, they're going to get younger and younger and younger. I will literally not be surprised when a 5-year-old is allegedly recruited to go build a drone in a factory, literally, right? And also, this is saying that current reports indicate that there's a sharp increase in trafficking, particularly affecting women and children, and specifically kidnapping, like premeditated kidnappings are increasing in South Africa. So this is not just about abducting you when you leave a club. This is not about abducting me as I leave the studio. A lot of them are premeditated. They target these victims. Even if they're not targeting you specifically for a ransom, they have a criteria of victim that they target, and it's just getting worse, right? Okay, I'm going to skip this. And we all know that listen to this. Corruption and complicity within government bodies. I wrote this down so that I didn't forget. I'm trying to have more structured thoughts, including Home Affairs, Social Development, SAPS, Hawks, and the MPA allegedly obstruct trafficking investigations. And these alleged obstruction methods include bribery, warnings to traffickers, survivors being returned to traffickers rather than being referred for care. And also, we know that there's limited training and resources for frontline law enforcement, which leads to re-traumatization, poor victim interviews, and underreporting. Here's also another problem with, I guess, law enforcement in South Africa. It's also an issue of us treating policing as a job that academic failures and delinquents are supposed to do, and not something that you're supposed to aspire to do. In America, I think joining the police force is an aspirational career. The same way we pedestalize being a lawyer, being a doctor, in other nations, being a police officer, a police official is pedestalized. You know, you're encouraged to have this much integrity and honor. You should want to do this job. You should want to prioritize the safety and well-being of others. In South Africa, Tabiso, after matric, Sanal 27, I lose amabupodisa. You know, meloguhle waitiking khalafela ko skolong azamebupонisa. Like, it's literally a last resort criteria. I remember when I applied for my first ever job and I had to go sit. So I hadn't graduated yet. I just had like a statement of my results confirming that, yes, I've completed the qualification. And when I went to go get my document certified, as I was leaving the house, my mom was like, TikTok, they won't understand what you're saying at the police station. Our standard for cops' intellect and their comprehension skills is so unbelievably low, right? Like, I often say that when people are like, oh my gosh, like, cops are so rude. Guys, they don't understand what they have to do, what you want them to do for you, what they don't understand. Some of them don't understand why documents have to be certified by a South African police service, right? Because I do also believe that identity theft and the selling of identity plays a huge role in this trafficking, in the selling, in these disappearances, right? Some people are literally using the identity of someone who was reported missing 7 years ago as we speak. Just saying. Think about that. Like, think about that for a second. How some of you are literally going missing, and when you're being held captive for the foreseeable future, your identity gets sold. And you also need to start asking why some of these people, even if they don't end up kidnapping you, why they want your personal information handed over so desperately. What are they doing to it? But back to the cops. Half the time, the cops, when you report a rape, they're not equipped with the language of talking to someone who has gone through major psychological trauma because of sexual violence, right? If you are saying to them, I am being stalked, I am being followed around by this strange man, this strange car, I am getting these strange texts, these strange emails. I think there's been a breach of privacy. Someone is using my information. They do not know what you're talking about. And even if you were to explain it at the level of a 5, they do not know what you're talking about. So how do we expect our cops to fight human trafficking if they don't understand what trafficking is? They think there are people standing in traffic. That's not trafficking. And also, trafficking is not like, this is also another thing I think is blurring the lines with this Alabuga Start program. Because it's exploitative labor, people are like, but guys, they are building drones. How is that trafficking? Aren't trafficking victims sex slaves? Guys, it's unpaid labor. You're trafficked for labor. You're trafficked for sexual favors. You see what I'm saying? They don't know. They don't have the language. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand what they need to help us with. And I'm so glad I wrote down specifically that they re-traumatize, because we all know that like people have the potential of being raped again in a police station because, again, patriarchy lives, go SAPS, misogyny lives, go SAPS. But guys, something needs to change. Like, but this is a question to you. Do you guys think that like we should make the police force like an aspirational career? Should the standards for entering the force be increased? Should there be more practical and tangible ways of, I guess, training people? That is very, because I also feel like the way our cops are trained is very distant from what the reality of crime in South Africa is. Not just from a language perspective, but everything, you know, from a fitness level, from an ammunition, like they are so ill prepared. They never rise to the occasion because they don't know what the occasion is. So you let me know in the comments. You let me know what you think about that. Let's continue reading what I've so carefully jotted down. Now, guys, this is so interesting to me because through the research, I found out that, and get this, I found out that South Africa is also trafficking people into the country. Like, I always saw our trafficking issues from our people are leaving from here to there, wherever there is, right? But I not for once considered that we have our own trafficking rings doing very similar things within the country. Now read this. South Africa serves as a source, transit, and a destination country, right? Guys, we have trafficked individuals entering via airports, and we have trafficking victims entering via like land borders from our neighboring countries. Now, listen to this. Victims include foreign nationals trafficked for labor, sex work, or forced servitude, and vulnerable groups within the country, including those living with albinism. Right? Guys, criminal syndicates often intermingle trafficking with narcotics. Guys, there's specific people who... Guys, this is why I'll never subscribe to xenophobia, because the issue of xenophobia has always been an issue of capitalism and your politicians and so many other people and your billionaires prioritizing their needs above the needs of everyone else. I wholeheartedly believe that there's no such thing as South Africans' jobs being taken. My babe, you do not want those jobs. I always say that the people who are being trafficked into the country as well, you need to remember, we have human rights, right? You cannot get away with paying me 1,000 rand for working an 18-hour shift, right? But with foreigners who are specifically trafficked into working these low wage, minimum wage jobs, low income jobs, they get to do that. They are exploited to the highest effect. People okay, let me not name brands, because like I'm an influencer or whatever. But if someone is working at a fast food chain, for example, right? They're severely understaffed. They're like two people flipping your burgers, one person mopping and working the cash register because they can afford to be understaffed. Because again, are these people going to report them for being understaffed? Who are they going to report them to? And if they report them, they risk being deported or being tortured, being harmed, or be so many things, right? But secondly, some of their identities are literally bought for them with the intention of this. Because, guys, officials who sell our identities, like right now, there could be a Lethabo Maluke, I don't know, working a low minimum job there in Kimberley, flipping burgers, using my name and surname. You do know that the officials are not giving away our identities, right? You do know that like someone who is running like a thrift store in Jersey, this is insider information. I was thrifting and he claimed that he doesn't have papers, and for him to get papers, they would charge him 50,000 for a fake identity. So your officials are literally driving Bentleys, kama bitwa lona, literally. So the issue of foreigners, of trafficking, of this labor has always been because of capitalistic motivations. It's these weird tribalist, futurist, mabahambe, it's so lame, it's so tired, it's so boring. Look at the capitalist picture, my babe, right? And listen to this. Allegedly, and listen to this, guys. Allegedly, in January of 2025, 26 Ethiopian nationals were rescued from trafficking conditions in Johannesburg. And we all know one of the most popular trafficking cases to come out of this country is the mother of Jocelyn, who is accused of selling her daughter to a traditional healer. And I think that still remains one of the most shocking trafficking cases in the country. You see, even with the people, I think I spoke about it somewhere when I did like a deep dive into Gaten McKenzie's rotten policies and politics, where I said they're literal syndicates opening, because I cannot invalidate the average South African's experience. I cannot do that. I literally cannot do that. When people say, when certain people are living in our communities, they are whatever, they're doing this, they're making us unsafe. Because I've also heard rumors through the grapevine that like sometimes when South Africans try to open tuck shops within certain areas, these syndicates will eradicate all South African-owned tuck shops and in like, I don't know, implement foreign-owned tuck shops. That's a syndicate. There is no such thing as one singular person having the power to do that and they're a foreigner. That is so clearly a syndicate. The same thing with these houses where these containers are placed. There is something to be said about the rent, because I also don't think, I think in one of my videos I said, oh, you guys are also renting these out, so you're to blame. Yes, but I also think there's a syndicate buying certain properties. You will find that the person who actually owns the house was evicted under very questionable circumstances. And when you go inside the house, it's filled with a bunch of niggas, like just 30 of them living in the house. So the issue of immigration, of trafficking, of xenophobia, of club culture, of Alabuga, it is intense. All of it is so intense. And I think just listening to everyone's perspective, sitting down, doing my research, reading about it, has been nothing short of a nightmare. Because I think everyone has been so short-sighted. Because I think with the influencers, I whacked them the other day. I don't know if I should whack them again, but like, as a creator myself, I often ask for a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth opinion on a brief, on a project, on a rate, on a contract. And you literally have AI. Like, I'm not a fan of AI, but if you are going to use it for something that can actually help you. Like, you can literally plug these briefs, these contracts into AI, get it to read it for you out, and then try to connect the brand, the program, the campaign to other work that it's done and to see if it's reputable. I mean, not so long ago, there was a certain, these recruiters who messaged me on TikTok and said that there's a phone that he is like running a campaign to like a new phone brand to, I don't know, promote, and he'd like to have me on, blah, 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 blah. Like he thinks it's so like amazing, da, 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 da. All I need to do is like send a copy of my ID, banking details, and then we're good to go. Right? And then I was like, wait, guys, that campaign never happened. The proposed date, because he also had a list of other proposed influencers, it never happened. I wholeheartedly believe that he was stealing people's information. That's what I'm saying. You need to ask for a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh opinion, because you cannot be ruining your bag and the livelihoods of other people just because you think reading a 10-page contract is too much effort. Now your name will forever be associated with trafficking. Now your name will also be associated with other allegations, whether they're unfounded or not. Because at a time where your name is attached to negativity and drama, all of it will stick. Any and all of it will stick. If someone accuses you of literally anything from this point onwards, no one will verify it, everyone will believe it. So please, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, because your platforms exist because of your supporters, right? Your supporters are not just these numbers that go up every day. You open TikTok, you gain 100 followers in the last 15 minutes. You got 103 likes in the first second of it being up. When you go to sleep and wake up, your video is now sitting on 200K and your following just keeps going up. Your profile, those are real people, right? And as much as, yes, your work impacts their lives, they consume it, you put your lives out there, your interests, your hobbies, your humor, your charisma, you share yourself with us, but they're also sharing themselves with you. They support you financially. They support you with their ears, their time. And you cannot thank them by recruiting them to be trafficked. Okay? Great. So I hope you guys enjoyed this chat. I know that I had promised you guys that we were going to start Queer Diaries soon and that we're going to start having guests, but I really wanted to talk about this before that goes on, because this was a topic and, I don't know, interest of mine that I wanted to tackle by myself. And yeah, and I think because South African Pride Month is literally in October, that would be like a perfect starting point for that. But we will have our first guest from next week, and I hope you've enjoyed, like, us being together, just me and you, for the last month and a bit. And yeah, like, nothing's changing. It's still gonna be the same hot takes. It's still gonna be equally entertaining and informative. We're just gonna have more people in on the conversation because, as I said, I feel like our people, and by our people, the people who like to talk about what we want to talk about, don't always get the necessary airtime. And sometimes when they do, it's, I don't know, their work, their interests are taken out of context. So yeah, I'm excited for next week. It's Lethabo Maluke, not Maluleke, the brightest star. And I'll see you next week, my big stars.